Culturally Clueless.
All right, y'all, time for a brand new episode of Culturally Clueless. While the GHF admitted to receiving funding from West European countries, Leonardo DiCaprio is very busy with his hotel project called Eretz. Ugandan judge Julia Sepatunde admitted that she voted this way because God spoke to her. All right, Assalamu alaikum and welcome.
Culturally Clueless.
So, of course, I'm going to start this episode by talking about the latest killing of the journalists in Gaza. We have Anas al-Sharif, Mohammed Grega, Ibrahim Zahir, who was a camera operator like Mohammed Naufal, and Mu'min Aliwa. There's also a sixth journalist called Khalid, who was also killed in this attack. Mind you guys, this tent was designated for journalists. Killing journalists after 22 months still remains a war crime. And since over 200 journalists are killed so far, yes, the occupation is continuously committing war crimes.
We're here in the heart of New York City, and several hundred protesters from the Palestinian Youth Movement are holding a protest right outside the headquarters of the New York Times. And they're doing it in support of our Al Jazeera colleagues that were murdered in Gaza City. They're passing out stickers like this with photos of Anas al-Sharif, and the words say, "They can't kill the story, the coverage continues."
It is what it is. So the interesting part is, I know that a lot of people talk about Anas al-Sharif. He's 28 years old, a father of two, and he won a Pulitzer Prize, and he has been working with many different international outlets, just like the rest of them, like Mohammed Greka. And the very interesting part of all of this is, for me, right? They always get accused, right? It's always Hamas. Like if something happens, it's Hamas. If somebody did anything, it's Hamas. If somebody even didn't do anything, it's Hamas. If somebody breaks down in front of the camera like Anas, it's Hamas, okay? This is the only reason why this guy broke down on camera. Not because he's been fighting the fight for his people pretty much all his life. He's 28 years old, and in this 28 years old, there have been multiple uncountable attacks on Gaza from Israel. And he has witnessed them from he was 11, 12, 15, 16, whatever years old. This is how people grow up in Gaza, okay? And he decided to become a journalist. He studied media and whatnot. And he had a breakdown on camera. He had a breakdown on camera because a woman, he was reporting, and a woman passed behind him, and she was very frail because these people in there are starving. There is no food. There is nothing coming in. And this GHF that is receiving the funding from West European countries, yes, they bring food in, but not because they want to feed the Palestinians, because they actually want to trap them. So the killing is much easier. And this is the God honest truth. It's what's been happening. This is fact. It happened. It's not that it didn't happen. It happened. On their watch, people have been killed while queuing up for food. Okay? So Anas had this breakdown because he saw this woman, and obviously he feels for his people. And after this attack, we have Anas's brother come out, right? And he's saying basically that Anas received a phone call, and he was asked to evacuate. He was asked to stop reporting, and they would take him out of Gaza. He can bring his kids, he can bring his wife, and they would take him out the strip. And he denied it. He said he's still going to be a voice for his people, and he's going to continue. This is the moment he signed his death certificate. Because as we know, health personnel, aid workers, and journalists are the most targeted ones. I mean, of course, like we have over 100,000 of kids, children, women, and men killed. But it is deliberate targeting of particular people, like the journalists, like the aid workers, like the paramedics, like the doctors, that are specifically targeted to wipe them out, because this is what they intended to do and intend to do, and this is I'm sorry, part of ethnic cleansing. And I'm so proud of New York, that city, that particular city that always where I always say in my head I live in New York. That city showed up, showed out, and there have been ongoing protests for the past week where people protested outside the UN, and they also this was organized by the health workers, right? The nurses, the doctors that are saying, hey, our colleagues are being brutally murdered, and the hospitals are being blown up to pieces because, of course, Hamas has their headquarters there, right, underneath the hospitals. And there were also protests outside the New York Times, and this is something that was, to me, very touching. And I really, really, really love the banner. I love the headline that they protest under, because they specifically chose the New York Times, which is one of the biggest media outlets, and they are basically protesting and holding the U.S. Responsible for its complicity in all of this. And this, as I said, has been happening every day last week. And they are saying, the headline that I love so much says, you can't kill the story, the coverage continues. I think this is absolutely amazing, and it speaks volumes. People already, and this is what they don't get. And this is, I don't understand, right? Like, why somebody like me, and I'm definitely not the brightest candle on the cake. I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. And I understand that once, people saw these atrocities, like they see body pieces on the floor, they see people walking around with plastic bags, picking up arms, hands, fingers, feet, eyes, whatever they can find of their neighbors, their family members, or anybody random. This is something that people will never forget. So even if we stop talking about Gaza today, these pictures are engraved in people's brains. This is already, it's already done. It's too late. It happened. There is no going back from here on forward. There is no going back. Anyone who does not acknowledge these kind of atrocities that are shown to us on our phone screens daily, they are definitely delusional or living in a whole different reality. And this is why I love this so much, this headline. You can't kill the story, the coverage continues, because it will continue. It will continue. You can wipe out all journalists. You can wipe out everybody. There is always somebody to tell a story. There is always proof of what they have done and they are doing. And since we're talking about, shouting out all of these protesters and everything in New York, there's actually somebody else. There's actually a young kid in the UK who done something amazing, which is call out the BBC for its complicity in the propaganda, because media is a big part when it comes to genocides, wars, conflicts, because obviously the media is the one that speaks to the people. They are supposed to tell the people and inform the people what's going on. It's just that over the years, the media has become very, 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 very biased because of the owners of the outlets, because of what is needed in order to stir people a certain direction when it comes to public opinion or public stance or whatever. So this kid, anyway, he was interviewed by the BBC. It was about the A levels, not the GCSE, the A levels. Okay, so it was about they were interviewing students, and he was interviewed, and then he ended it by saying, by the way, free Palestine. and the BBC is complicit. And this woman was thrown, as journalist, was thrown so off guard. It was so beautiful. She's like, "Oh, we're not talking about this today. This is a whole different topic." And he kept repeating it, and he stayed so calm. You know how like most activists, when when they get in the zone and they be like screaming like, "Oh, free Palestine," and all of this, and it's super hype and stuff. This kid, he kept his cool. He was very composed, and he just free Palestine. And the BBC is complicit, and he kept repeating it. And I think, you know what, I don't know nothing much about this kid, but what I can do is his parents should be very proud of him.
So on that note, I just want to say free Palestine and the genocide, and the BBC is complicit.
All right, we're here to talk about A-level results.
BBC is complicit.
All right, thank you for your thoughts. We're here to talk about A-level results today. Gaza, a whole different subject.
This was very brave, and it was amazing. And this leads me to my next thing, which I wanted to talk about. And you guys know this is something very important to me because it's exactly my field. It's the field I'm in when it comes to all this media stuff and the media personalities and everything, you know, the journalism and like citizen journalism became a whole thing, especially also over the past 22 years. And especially because when reporters are targeted and wiped out, the civilians, the citizens have to step up and have to tell the stories. And this is how it goes. And unfortunately, it's not working everywhere as good as, like, we don't get much from the Congo, for example. We don't get much from Sudan, for example. We get a little bit from Haiti, but also nowhere near like enough. And other like war zones or genocides that are going on, and which is very sad, by the way. So when it comes to freedom of speech, you know, like we all are impacted, not just media. The reason why we are impacted is because if we decide to take a stance against a genocide, right? It happens where people get demonized for it, right? Because it's so wrong. Like this is the thing. If you are against genocide, you are automatically a terrorist, and it's amazing to me how they came to this conclusion. You know, how they make people something just because you don't like one thing. I mean, I'm sorry, right? Just because, I mean, this is not for me because everybody knows I'm vegetarian, but if I don't like chicken, that doesn't make me a vegetarian. Right? Because there's still other meat options that I could like. So this is dumb. And they know that, but unfortunately, a lot of other people are dumber and fall for it and don't see the light. So what can I say? When it comes to freedom of speech, people have lost their jobs, have lost their positions, have lost their businesses, have lost friends, have lost even were disowned from family members because they choose to stand against what's going on, against the killing of innocent civilians. There is sometimes, though, a little bit of hope, and what makes me very proud when there is somebody or an initiative or a group that stands up and actually says, despite all the risks and despite all the threats, we're going to speak the truth. And there is this green energy company,
a UK green energy company, and its founder, Dale Vance, standing firm on flying the Palestinian flag at their headquarters in Stroud. The local council wants them to apply for planning permission, but Vince says that's unnecessary and inconsistent, especially since no one asked for planning permission to fly a Ukrainian flag. He argues that this is about free speech and that a group of lawyers linked to Israel has been pressuring councils to remove Palestinian flags, which he sees as a suppression of pro-Palestinian sentiment.
He is flying the Palestinian flag, right? And he was reprimanded and he was told to remove the flag, and he doesn't want to. He simply doesn't want to move the flag. Like, why? Like, why am I removing my flag? I want to fly this flag. This is what I feel like doing, right? It's my company, it's my property, whatever. It's what I want to do. And he has been asked for planning permission. And what he's saying is planning permission for what? There was no planning permission needed when it came to flying the Ukraine flag. So why is it important, or why is it needed for the Palestinian flag. So he says this is infringement of freedom of speech, and I totally agree with him. And I just love people who are actually willing, no matter how difficult it is, to stand up, because not enough people do this. Sometimes you see that, like you see somebody like at work who has been mistreated by, let's say, I don't know, like management or anyone. You see even in your friend circle somebody being mistreated, or in your family or whatever. And a lot of people don't speak up because they don't want to be made uncomfortable. They don't want to be part of it. They don't want to be roped into it. And I understand that. We all would choose comfort over everything else. But I just think in life and what life is about, to speak up when there is injustice, even the littlest injustice, and because it says a lot about you and who you are. That's all I can say. So shout out to Vance for standing 10 toes down. And we have to talk about Trump. This is something I really don't like to do personally. Like, I understand there's nothing special about this meeting with Trump, with Putin. It's not the first time that these people actually met. We're gonna get to this in a second. Before that, I want to talk a little bit about the situation that's been happening and going on in DC. So it sounds good, right? At first sight, it sounds really good. Like, oh wow, like he wants all of these homeless people, he's giving them the option to get mental health what do you call it, aid. He is offering them shelter. He's offering them something, a perspective. It sounds amazing, right? You would think like, oh wow, that's actually something good. Like, these people are going to get, you know, treatment for their drug abuse. They're going to get therapy. They're going to get, help and support for their mental health crisis. And they're going to get like somewhere to stay, all the shelters, so that they can kind of like, be real bit got this word. I'm not even gonna try, and I don't have anyone here to to say it for me. Forget it. Okay, so that they can basically become part of society again, right? It sounds actually really amazing. But it's the way it's done. It's forcefully removed. It's not ask people if they want to be removed from their homeless life. And I know some of y'all might say, but they're mentally ill. Maybe they cannot make such a decision. And who wouldn't want to live? Who wouldn't want to give up their life as a homeless person? But this is like some criminalization of people, the way that it's done. And honestly, it's because the idea of America first is not there anymore, because there's a foreign government that is prioritized. I'm really wondering, and this is also the concern of many people, are there even enough resources to help all of these people? Or will they be thrown in some type of shelter, and then they have to just live there, sit there like they're in jail? Because otherwise, this is actually the other alternative they have. If they don't go with what's suggested, the alternative is prison. Yep, it's prison. So it's basically, you don't get down with the program, we're gonna lock you up. Yep. So this is this is the thing. Like, are there enough resources? Can they deal with all of these people, or will these people like be locked up anyway in some type of shelter and have to wait their turn for therapy, which might not be enough because, again, there's not enough resources, or there is not enough capacity when it comes to rehab, or however they want to help these people curb their drug abuse. So it's actually insane to watch what's happening in DC, and the reason behind it is like completely different. And sometimes they know how to package things up to make it look good.
Now, speaking of Trump, his main aim today is to try and negotiate the end of the war in Ukraine. But also it's expected that he could leverage sanctions or even economic pressure if Russia refuses to budge. Putin, on the other hand, would love to see those sanctions lifted. But land and territory will be one of the biggest contentions to look out for, because Russia currently occupies about 20% of Ukraine, and they want to make that permanent. Ukraine themselves already publicly and strongly refuse to make any land concessions, especially since Trump has already hinted that land transfers might help reach a negotiated ceasefire.
Anywho, their meeting lasted about 3 hours. Putin came out first, addressed the media first, reminded everybody of the relationship between Russia and America. And honestly, people were making so much fun of Trump not being able to walk a straight line to get to his Air Force One. And I mean, we all know, dude is not really there anymore, right? We all know that. Like, it's a little bit different than it was with Joe Biden, but it's still. I don't even know, guys. I don't even know. Like, I'm here by myself doing this episode by myself, still with headphones. Really have it. That's all I can say. Anyway, back to the task at hand. So yes, these kind of meetings between these two people just happen to basically land swap or make deals. I give you this. What do I get in return? What are you giving me? What am I giving you?
Well, yeah, thank you. He wants to make a deal for me. You understand that? As crazy as it sounds. Just sit down. Sit down, everybody. Yeah. I think we'll let the press go.
And now he wants to set up a summit with Putin and Zelensky to discuss the peace process, right? Because there's supposed to be a peace process and some potential land swap, right? And Zelensky is so far rejecting any land swap. And Putin addressed this very interesting. So he was interviewed right recently, and he said something, and it's funny how literally most people didn't even take note of that. I heard somebody talk about it. I'm like, okay, it's not just me. It's not just me. At least some other people pay attention. He said that he is very interested in a peace in a peace agreement. He just said who will sign this peace agreement, and we all know, and this has been in talks for a while. Ukraine was and is for sale. I don't know how much of it is owned by whom. No idea yet. No idea. But him making that statement, asking that question, who is going to be there to sign it, speaks volumes. Like, seriously, it says a lot. So you guys, you can do your own research and find out more about this, and I will still keep you posted on this as well. There's some more craziness going on, you guys. It's been, what is it now, 8-9 months since the fall of Bashar al-Assad in Syria, and the situation has been all over the place in Syria. It always has been kind of like all over the place, but when Assad was in charge, I mean, it was a very, very crazy times. And this is very, very good times for people when they saw him fall, when they saw him run out the country. You know, this is some type of success, because the dictatorship is over. All the suffering that these people endured, and everything that they went through, and how things were, it's over. It's done. But now Jelani is in power. Things been happening, attacks been happening also from their neighbors, the occupation, and all of these different rebel groups all over the place. Now, I read something that was very interesting, and that's why I wanted to talk about it, or share it here at least, because we have to see how this is going to work out. Turkey and Syria signed a very interesting agreement. This agreement was signed last week by both countries, and it says that Turkey will provide the Syrian army with military equipment, advanced weapon systems, and logistical military equipment. This is what they will be armed with, and also they will also train the Syrian army, if need be, on how to use all of these equipments. Okay, this is according to Reuters. The Kurdish-led SDF, also backed by the US, are not in part of this deal anymore, because they tried to have some type of their own deal. You know, this was like a March in March. That's why they call it the March Agreement or so. They signed this, but it wasn't followed up on. So Turkey is basically saying that they want the SDF, and they hope that the SDF will honor this new signed agreement. I think this is very, very interesting, and it remains to be seen where and how this is going. And we also have something, this was a crazy news for me as well, because I'm like, when is this propaganda gonna stop? When are these people actually going to stop this madness? So when it comes to Israel and their weird propagandas and their deals, this started last year, where they stated they were in negotiations with the Congo to basically move Palestinians to the Congo, which raised a lot of anger within the Congolese community, a lot of animosity towards the Palestinians, who never asked to be moved to the Congo. These people are literally being killed and genocided and ethnically cleansed because they have not wanting to leave their land. They've been made offers. They've been made offers to be evacuated, to receive millions, to receive whatever, to be taken into safe places, different countries, third countries, and whatnot. And yeah, granted, a lot evacuated, and a lot for medical reasons as that as well. But many, the most so far, are staying put. Okay. So no, they never wanted to go to the Congo. If that was something, it was propaganda. It was just to get, outrage. It was, and maybe they did discuss it, but this plan is absurd, Now we're coming with a similar story, and this time it's South Sudan. And we all know what's happening in Sudan. We all know the complicity of everybody, whether it's Israel, whether it's the US, whether it's the West altogether, with the UAE, and how much they are supporting the RSF, the Rapid Support Forces, in killing, raping, destroying everybody and everything in Sudan. And recently, they liberated Khartoum, okay, the Sudanese army. But Sudan has been going through it, and almost quietly. I just see more people speak on it, but again, we don't have the pictures. And I said that before, and I will say it again for those who don't remember or who weren't here. When this was started in a very clever way, when you start such a conflict, such a genocide, such a, whatever it is, usually it starts from land, and then you come into the cities. This time they started in the main city, and they came for the infrastructure, the communication systems, the financial systems, everything destroyed, so that it's very, very difficult for any type of pictures or videos to make it out of Sudan. And the little bit we get is atrocious. It's evil. It's literally evil. So South Sudan is saying no. They're saying we have not been in any type of negotiation with Israel regarding the resettlement of people from Gaza to South Sudan. This is not the stance of the country. And we definitely did not participate in any of this negotiation process. So again, propaganda, just another way to cause outrage, just another way to pit different communities against each other. This is what they're great in, because Mind you, if all marginalized people were to get along and were to overcome all the pettiness and sometimes really justified, let's say, whether it's racism, whether it's colorism, whatever it may be, but if we're willing to actually just like deal with it a little bit later, postpone it, and just deal with the common enemy that we have, we would be so strong. But that's what they don't want. So it's very important part of this whole thing to keep us apart. And since we're talking about all these different countries, let's move to a country in the West, Germany. Who is Germany is the second largest weapon provider to Israel that is used to kill all of these people in Gaza. Now, Germany has said, after they said they want to occupy Gaza, the occupation, that is, Germany said, oh, we're gonna stop weapon sales to Israel. Then remember, guys, I talked about it last week. I talked about it and I told you guys it is not going to happen. And guess what? They said they're gonna partially stop the weapon sales. Okay, and that's what I meant when I said last week, when I said they won't stop completely. It's just going to be a temporary thing, like it was when the US apparently stopped certain sending certain bombs over. It's going to be temporary, like the UK did with certain military equipment. Not all, certain. It's going to be partially, okay? And Germany received, after all, a very strong public backing. There was a poll by ZDF, which is one of the more conservative German TV stations that nobody watches, by the way, like really. Okay, so 83% of Germans wanting to stop or supporting to stop arms sales to Israel. Okay, most Germans, which is like 60%, support the state recognition. You know, for Germany to recognize the state of Palestine. 62% of Germans support more political pressure on Israel. Okay, and this is very interesting because remember, Germany is actually the place where everything went down, like Germany and the surrounding countries. Let's say let's not put it all on Germany. It was the Holocaust took place in those countries, and in Germany. Germany played the biggest role. Germany played the role also in a genocide when it comes to the Harara in Namibia between 1904 and 1908, which are still finding out that a lot of people don't know about it, and people should know about it. So yes, I think it's very good that finally the Germans decide to stand against it. It is about time. And I'm going to tell you 83%. Yes, that sounds good, but let's make it 98. Let's make it 102%. And the 62% of like pressure, or 63% that want political pressure on Israel. Let's raise that number up as well. Seriously. I mean, there's some who are against it. This is like a low number. And then some are like, you know, indifferent or whatever. So, you know, and since we're talking about the occupation and the only democracy in the Middle East and the only place where you find peace and you will be free in the Middle East, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let me give you some very interesting info here. Let's start with something that happened last week in Vegas. Okay, so last week in Vegas there was a tech conference. Nothing special. Happens a lot. And it happens a lot that obviously country, you know, the cybersecurity officials and all of the people that work for different governments participate in such a conference. I mean, they have to, right? So no crime there. And there is this particular guy called Thomas Alexandrovich, okay? He is Israeli, and he spent 2 weeks in Vegas for this conference. And he was actually caught, how he was trying to lure a child, for some sexual activities. He was caught. He was arrested by the police and by the FBI, but then he was let go, and he is back in Israel.
However, Tom was actually in contact with a law enforcement agent, after which he was swiftly arrested and charged by the Henderson County PD. However, as we all know, rules don't apply to Israeli government officials, especially the high-ranking ones like Tom. So he was not only let go, but also allowed to go back to Israel. There is a media blackout around this story, with Western media refusing to talk about it, even though Israeli media outlets such as Ynet are covering the story.
Netanyahu decided that he's gonna, like always, make his put his own spin on the story and lied out of his teeth, saying he was never arrested. Everything went smooth. And you guys, by now, you should all know that there's a loophole for sex predators, for pedophiles. So convicted pedophiles, right? Convicted pedophiles in the US can leave and go to Israel. And this has been going on for years. So you can imagine what kind of people live in Israel. This is the state that they're fighting to keep alive. This is the state that people who claim this has religious reasons or whatever, like this Julia Sepatunde, whatever her name is, the judge who says she's doing this because out of religious reasons, why she's supporting Israel. This is where you support a state where convicted pedophiles live freely. All right. Say no more. Say no more. Let me see. There's more. There's different type of ethnicities in this world, different type of races, a few. Different type of cultures, and freedom of religion is one thing, right? And we should respect everybody, especially when you call yourself the democracy, the only democracy of the Middle East. And this is the country, only place in the Middle East, the only country where you can be free.
There's a group of Ugandan Jews called the Ubayu Daya who converted to Judaism in the 1920s. And when they tried to move to Israel, Israel said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you haven't been practicing Judaism long enough. You can't come here." So then you've got white South African Jews who converted to Judaism in 1994 at the fall of apartheid. No problem. Totally cool. Come on in.
And this decision was reinforced by a court in Israel in 2021. Okay, they don't want these people there. And this is very interesting to me. I mean, look, they brought over the Ethiopian Jews because they needed to fill up the place, you know, like it's an ethno state that they wanted to build for Jewish people, the only safe place for Jewish people, which became the most dangerous place for Jewish people. But that's, again, a whole different chapter in this book. But these people, these Ethiopian people, they were injected without their knowledge, so that they couldn't procreate anymore. So this is like a way to wipe them out, to stop them from existing. Then they had back then, and we all know that it's proven, the kidnapping of Yemeni Jewish children that were then given to Ashkenazi parents for them to raise so that they can mix, and these Yemenis parents were told that these kids died while giving birth. And they are, through DNA testing, which is, by the way, illegal in the occupation, and this is one of the reasons why it's illegal, they find them as adults. They find each other, and then they find out that the kids haven't died. They have been taken. They have been given to different parents because of a bigger picture that you couldn't paint uglier. And again, it's out of bias. They are not allowed to move to the US, to Israel. But after the apartheid broke in South Africa, a lot of racist South Africans reverted to Judaism, and they were allowed to come, and they reverted to Judaism out of, you know, because they were racist. They wanted to live in an apartheid state. And this is what's insane. You see the difference they're making? All of these differences? And now they're trying it even harder, you know, to target the Black community in the US. Like, when you think about it, BET is not owned by a Black by a Black person. The Zeus that works with all of these reality shows that are one more wretched than the next one for the most part, are all run by different people, where like people are literally used, and they think, yeah, because they're making money, it's something. No, there is a way bigger picture to this. The attacks come also through the churches, but that's a whole different topic. And I'm glad that I'm seeing a lot of people speak up on this even more. But don't worry, I got more. This is not it. This is not it. This is not it. I came across a very interesting video. Okay, I'm gonna play the video here for you guys, but I want to talk about it because this is so interesting. And we cannot play the whole video because it's long. There is this white girl. She's half Spanish, Spain Spanish, European Spanish, who talked about, you know, like, if she's half American, half Spanish, as I said. She grew up in a Catholic household, and if she was to convert to Judaism, she could apply for Aliyah, you know, the right of return to Israel, that right of return. What do you mean return? She would be granted an Israeli ID card immediately, and she would get a cash grant of $4,200 to $4,700. Okay, just to get her started, you know, to buy the essentials, the necessities. She would get granted rent subsidies, so she could rent about like $250 to $300 a month, which is literally insane for Israel. It's a year to over a year of free healthcare. It's living, and if she wants to live in the West Bank, she gets even way more than that. She gets like 13. Oh, she gets money every month, by the way, if she decides to live in Israel, if she decides to convert. But if she wants to live in a West Bank, it's even crazier.
In the West Bank? Well, I'd get a little discount, $230,000 on a new house. But if a Palestinian has the keys to their home that they've had in their family for hundreds of years, it's meaningless to Israel. And if a Palestinian child throws a rock at a tank that is currently running through his town, demolishing all the homes, well, he'll be arrested and held indefinitely without trial.
So she is going to get $1,300 a month for a whole year, and she wants to buy a house, she would get aid for that as well. And probably if it's a Palestinian house, they would just like kick them out and give it to her. I mean, they've been doing that, right? You see at the difference of treatment? You see what somebody growing up white in a Catholic household compared to a Ugandan group would be treated over there? And that's the idea of an ethno-state, y'all. Mm-hmm. And I want to, oh my God, this episode is so much about the occupation. Is actually insane, okay? It's actually really insane. I think we're going to be heavily shadow banned like crazy. Anyways, let's get to Marwan Barghouti. He is definitely a very influential figure, and they always say he is the person who could unite all Palestinians, right? He is serving currently a five lifetime sentence. Because he was heavily involved in the second Intifada. And he's 66 years old. He has been steadfast in his message. And they say if he was ever to come out, because he's been part of many different negotiations, you know, about hostage exchanges. If he was to ever come out, he would be a very much so potential leader. Okay. And he was seen after many, many, many years for the very first time now, because security minister who is in charge of the prisons in Israel, Itamar Ben Gvir, he visited Marwan al-Barghouthi and humiliated him to the fullest. Okay. Because he has oversight to the prison, so he can easily have access to them. And this guy is insane. Like, we all know that he's as right can be. You know, Ben Gvir was in prison because of his anti-Arab sentiments. But if you ask me, that's so ridiculous. Then you would have to lock up probably what, 95-98% of the country, because they all have anti-Arab and specifically anti-Palestinian sentiments. Palestinians to them are like animals on two legs. This is something they say. So, you know, if you arrest one, what about the rest of them? You think they are any better? This guy is coming out with it. He's coming out swinging. He's saying how he thinks, like they all do. And this is and this is what baffled me the most. You know, I've never heard so much evil come out from a human being that I really started doubting if they are human beings myself, because it's evil. It's literally evil what they say. Anyway. So he visited him. He recorded this visit. And in this visit, we can hear him say, let me fix myself. I'm so annoyed with this fixing myself all the time. So he said, anyone who messes with Israel, anyone who murders our children and women, we will wipe him out. It's very funny. Who is killing who again? Remind me real fast. Barghouthi was seen, as I said, for the very first time in a very long time. He doesn't look good. We heard recently he's not allowed to see his lawyer as and when needed. So it's very, 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 very rare he gets to have a visit by his lawyer. He's been locked up for 20 years now, and he's been in solitary confinement. He still says his trial was illegitimate. It was not right. It was not done right. And he's causing a big threat, as I said, because he can reunite all of the people in Palestine. This is what they don't like, right? That's the ish they don't like. And there is a quote that he said that I found very touching in a way and very resilient that I wanted to share. He gave an interview in 2006 with oh my gosh, guys, my laptop is just like, yeah, in 2006. And he said, Israel succeeded in arresting my body, but not my head and not my soul. They will not break our will for independence. That's what he said. Okay. And his wife didn't even recognize him when she saw him, mind you, like 20 years, and she, you know, like is still out there grinding it out, waiting for him, and she didn't recognize him. It's heartbreaking. Literally heartbreaking. Okay. Completely different record now. Different topic. Let's move the goalpost a little bit to something else. I came across something and I remembered, I'm like, oh yeah, you know, like sometimes we witness things, or we see things happening around us, or certain behaviors, certain personality traits, character traits, and we don't know how to place them, right? We don't know how to, you know, gauge them, how to explain them. And sometimes we feel like it's just, it doesn't have a name. It doesn't have, it's not been recognized officially. But for many, many times, most of the times, it's not true. So today I wanted to talk about the Dunning-Kruger effect. Anyone familiar with that?
People who know the least often have the most confidence in their abilities. This has come to be known as the Dunning-Kruger effect. But what's less commonly known is the opposite, known as the reverse Dunning-Kruger effect. This is when you become truly competent. It's when you research, you study, and you put in the hard hours, and you become acutely aware of how little you know.
Anyone? Yes? No? Maybe? So this is a cognitive bias, right? This Dunning-Kruger effect. And it's basically when, you know how people sometimes, they have no clue about a particular topic, about a particular, in a particular field, yet they are the most confident. I'm so annoyed, y'all. Like, please don't mind me. This comes with the territory. So there is this whole thing where people really don't know nothing about nothing, but they have the biggest confidence. So they pull it off because they know how to talk around it, how to get around certain things, and how to just manage the situation so they look like they know exactly what they're talking about. And it happens to all of us. It can happen at our workplace. It happens online a lot. Like in politics, for example, sometimes when you listen to Trump's speeches, I'm sorry, I can't listen to a speech of his. I zone out. Sometimes, and then if you go read it, you realize, like, bro, what is he actually talking about? What is he saying? He's just masking it up with a particular image that he has, with a particular personality that he's been selling for like years, decades. And this happens also like in a as I said, in a private setting. It can happen with your friends. It can happen with anything. Like people who don't know much about a particular thing or are not so well versed in something, they know how to portray the biggest confidence so that they are believed to be great, amazing, and experts at it. Well, somebody who actually has major knowledge about something, they're a little bit more humble, like, I don't know for sure, but this and this and this, or I know this and this and this, but maybe, because they understand the concept of there is always way more room to learn. Like learn doesn't end. Learning does never stop. And I think this is very interesting. This was something that was it was a study done in 1999, so it's kind of like fairly new. It's only 26 years old, this Dunning-Kruger effect recognition, where it was identified by a psychiatrist called David Dunning and another one called Justin Kruger. They conducted these studies and they came up with it that this is really something that is going on, and it can be very impactful in a way of where, as I said, in politics, you can definitely influence people, influence the public, with having a very strong opinion, with a particular image that you're trying to sell when you actually don't know what you're doing. I'm sorry, for me, it remains to see if Zoran Mamdani is one of those, because I wasn't too keen like everybody else was, or many other people were. It's also like when it comes to education, like a lot of kids, especially a lot of kids, like a friend of mine, he told me recently he had that problem with his daughter. Like she unfortunately failed at school because she was saying, oh, I got this. No, I got this. It's easy. I don't need to this. I don't need to that. I'm good. While her parents were telling her no. And now she had like the whole big reality check thrown right at her. She completely failed at school now this year. And this is what happens when people think they're bigger than what they are. They're destined to fail for the most part. It might go good for a number of years, but there is going to be a time where you're going to fail, where you're going to be caught, or people are going to wake up and realize. So I just want to say, it's good to be humble. It's good to check yourself. It's good to self-reflect. And I have a soccer update. And by the way, guys, my editor told me I shouldn't say soccer. I told him I learned soccer at school, and he'd say, no, it's football. In Europe, it's football. You grew up in Europe. Why you call it soccer? Like, this was an American thing. I mean, yeah, granted, and in Europe, for the most part, they call it football. But because I do have a lot of people from the US watching, I don't want them to conflate it with American football. And he said, no. So I shouldn't say soccer. I should say football. And I talked to you guys about the PSG Paris Saint-Germain team, the banner that was held up, like, stop the killing of civilians. This was something at the UEFA Cup that happened. And it was refugee kids that were kneeling behind this banner. 2 Palestinian children, children from Iraq, from Afghanistan, and Nigeria. And for this, the club, PSG, was fined 10,000 euros, about like what, $11,000-12,000. So much to freedom of speech. Remember, we talked about it earlier. Yeah. That's why I say we have to call them out when we have brave people do something good and stand up for the right thing. We have to call them out, and that's what I'm exactly trying to do here. And we have also an artist. Her name is, what is her name? Oh my gosh. Her name is Dali Mavis, and she's an indie folk singer in the UK. She had this private gig where she was supposed to perform. They came, they set up, they saw it was for J.D. Vance, and they packed up and left. And she said on her Instagram, she said that she is not a fan of his, or they're not a fan of his, so they are not going to do this. They're not going to stand there and perform for somebody. They say morals are more worth than money. I agree with that. And I thought this is a very nice thing to close out with. So shout out to all of the people who are steadfast in believing that morals over everything and are not allowing a system to break you down. With that said, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe. If you're listening on streaming, come check us on YouTube. And I hope you guys are going to have a beautiful week. And I catch you next week on the next one. Assalamu alaikum.